A wrong conduct should be immediately apologized for, whether it was done consciously or unknowingly. The longer an apology is postponed, the more distant a relative becomes, and the friendship or relationship may dissolve permanently. In some circumstances, such as in terms of health or machine repair, deferring an action can be disastrous. A cold or a runny nose, if untreated, can develop into sinusitis, and a severe cough can develop into tuberculosis. Neglecting a physical ache could result in a lethal malignancy. Similarly, a vehicle malfunction can cause, if not an accident, at least a delay in reaching a destination, as it can break down in the middle of the journey.
Excuse me, is this seat free?
Yes.
Thanks.
My name is Mrs. Smith. It is nice to meet you.
Hi, Mrs. Smith. My name is Mr. Bean. It's nice to meet you too.
Where are you from, Mr. Bean? You sound like you not from England.
I am from Thailand. I have been visiting my family in Manchester. How about you?
Same as every day at this time on my way to work, as usual.
Despite the fact that attention is essential for learning, it is difficult to achieve. It is a technique that requires a great deal of patience and effort to master. Whoever masters it is a true yogi. Controlling our senses and bringing all of our consciousness into one place is no easy undertaking. Life is complex, and there are always multiple situations clamoring for our attention, making it even more difficult to concentrate on just one subject. Even if we try to focus completely on the task at hand, our subconscious mind is scattered in many areas and quickly drags our conscious mind along with it without our knowledge. As a result, it necessitates a great deal of self-control and determination. For food delivery companies, the European market is a difficult landscape. In the last few years, Delivery Hero has had a good run. It ascended to the DAX, the stock market index of Germany's most valued listed companies, in August 2020. It can be found in 50 different countries across 4 continents. The third quarter's revenue was €1.8 billion, $2 billion, up 89% from the same time in 2020. We grew 100% before Corona, 100% during Corona, and 100% after Corona, says Niklas Östberg, the Swedish chief executive of the Berlin-based corporation. Delivery Hero is more than twice as big as DoorDash, a major American competitor, in terms of order volume. A £10 prize was given to anyone who could provide information regarding Oliver's parents. However, no valuable information was found. Oliver was transported to a nearby poor farm, where he spent his early years being neglected and starved. He was returned to the workhouse when he was 9 years old. The children in the workhouse were fed so little that they were practically constantly hungry. Other children forced Oliver to request a second dish of oatmeal one day. This unexpected and unprecedented demand astounded the officials. They put him in solitary prison right away to give him a deterrent punishment and posted a bill offering £5 to any master who would take him. One of the most crucial parts of every relationship is trust. Medicine treats a person's physical disease, but trust and caring aid mental recovery. When it comes to you, a trustworthy individual will be dependable and honest. They will not lie, steal, cheat, lose their devotion to something, or abandon you over insignificant concerns. The words integrity, honesty, reliability, and loyalty come to mind when describing trustworthiness. Integrity means having faith in yourself and standing up for your values. If there is no trust between husband and wife, parents and children, friends and neighbors, etc., life will be difficult. It is impossible to regain trust after it has been lost. Life may go on after trust is lost, but the frayed edge will always be obvious. Courtney Hammond, a blueberry and cranberry farmer in Washington County, Maine, has many concerns, as do many farmers. Weather, invasive species, failed crops, and worldwide prices are all on his mind. To comply with federal food safety regulations, he had to undergo training, keep detailed records, implement bug and rodent control measures, and document the sanitation of his processing equipment on a regular basis. I don't have to worry about anyone getting sick from eating anything that leaves my farm, he says, despite the fact that it's a lot of effort. He is now concerned that a new law may jeopardize his hard work. Earlier this month, 61% of Maine voters approved a constitutional amendment ensuring that all Mainers have a right to food.
Hi Bobby, how are you?
I am good. What about you?
I am fine. When do you get up in the morning?
I always get up early in the morning, most of the time at 6 o'clock.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. I can't do that. I am a bit worried.
You can too. It is not that hard. If you do it for a couple of days, then it will be your habit. You just need to start.
What is the benefit of early rising?
First of all, we get a long day to work more and enjoy our time. And then it has lots of health benefits too.
I was lying in my bed last night, reading a ghost story, and I'm not sure when sleep overtook me. In my dream, I encountered an elderly gentleman who claimed to be a magician. He claimed to be able to compel ethereal spirits to do whatever he wanted. I made fun of him and even called him a fake. He became enraged with me. He raised his hand and spoke something unusual. Suddenly, a snake emerged in his hand, which he unleashed on me. I was terrified and tried to flee, but I couldn't get my feet off the ground. I yelled in terror. My father, who had been sleeping next to me, awoke. Father shook my hand and inquired about the situation. Then I informed him about my dreadful nightmare. She predicts that if the distribution of women's employment matched that of men, if women were doctors and men were nurses, at best a third of the pay difference would be eliminated. The most essential reason is that women cut back on their careers as part of a reasonable household response to labor markets that lavishly reward everyone, male or female, who is prepared to work in a greedy job, as Ms. Golden describes it. These are jobs that require lengthy and irregular hours, such as those in law, accounting, and finance. Someone needs to be on call at home in case a child becomes ill and needs to be picked up from school, or if a youngster needs to be cheered on at a performance or football game. High worker turnover is unavoidable. Retention techniques must be reconsidered. Bosses did not have to worry as much about their workforces in the not-too-distant past. Newcomers could osmotically adopt the organizational culture. Workers' families were unseen, and Zoom calls were not continually interrupted. Employees were given a job but not a voice. Now, businesses must be purposeful, management language for considering everything from the location of the office to how employees communicate with one another. The most recent issue that requires attention is retention. The Great Resignation, a surge of employee departures, is centered in America, where a record 3% of the workforce resigned in September. Our country is democratic, and elections are the lifeblood of any democratic institution. Elections are held every 5 years in India. Elections were scheduled to be held last year to elect a new MLA. Candidates from various political parties were competing. The parties were canvassing for votes in support of their respective candidates. A father could be seen canvassing for one party while his son was canvassing for the other. All canvassing was halted the day before the election. The parties set their camp a short distance from the voting site. They possessed voter lists for their respective zones. Voters were flocking to the tents of their preferred political parties. They were being assisted by the personnel. The personnel assisted them in locating their serial numbers and provided them with ballot forms to aid them in voting. The US has announced that it will withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement. The United Nations has been informed, formally enforcing a decision made by President Trump in June. The State Department, on the other hand, stated that the United States will continue to participate in climate change discussions until the withdrawal process was finished. According to new research, weather-related calamities in Europe might kill more than 150,000 people per year by the end of the century. According to a European Commission research, heat waves are responsible for 99% of all weather-related deaths on the continent. The character of a nation's people determines its fate. Tomorrow's children are today's youngsters. Today's youngsters should not only be taught about essential values, but also encouraged to make a commitment to upholding them in real life through practice. It is the first basic phase in school instruction, when moral principles are instilled through a well-structured study of books. Because stories are secular in nature, they provide significant insight into all religions. Moral science not only aids in the installation of positive moral principles, but also aids in the differentiation of good from evil. It shapes our character, personality, and teaches us proper etiquette and manners, resulting in a happy and healthy life.
TV news that strives for accuracy and speed is always at risk of falsifying its information in order to stay in circulation. The guiding premise for the 24-hour news format is that a news should be carried on the channel whether or not it has an aspect of worthiness. If there is nothing worth reporting, the content can be sensationalized for the sake of gaining popularity. It has a tendency to become monotonous and boring as scandals are allowed to become headlines and popularity becomes the primary goal. The aspiration of television news to be the single custodian of objective truth in the profession of journalism is a lofty claim, as it frequently becomes a platform for commercial advertising. The mathematician John von Neumann experienced a type of stammering premonition in 1945, while exhausted. He was working on the atom bomb in Los Alamos when he told his wife Clary that the energy source he was helping to develop would turn scientists into the most hated and simultaneously the most wanted people of any society. Then he told her about his other continuing project, the computer, which would become even more important and even dangerous in the future. Good biographies of some of the greatest mathematical minds are hard to come by, because they were polymaths. Biographers who can explain their many accomplishments to the average person are few and far between. Aggression and sledging, in my opinion, are not necessary components of sports. Sports are intended to test one's physical and mental endurance, not to encourage individuals to engage in brawls or altercations that result in scuffles. Sledging is considered legitimate by my opponents, but I believe that those who become violent and begin sledging do so because they do not comprehend the spirit of sports and sportsmanship. If you want to win a game, you must achieve so by talent or exceptional performance. Sledging is, in my opinion, an immoral and disgusting way to anger an opponent. My dear friends, I'd like to inquire whether sledging adds to the game's enjoyment.